Welcome back. We're back on track one, and the next session is going to be Playbook for Enabling Learning Anytime and Anywhere. The moderator for the session is Sandeep Bapna, who is Managing Director of Khan Academy India, a not-for-profit educational organization established by Khan Academy and Tata Trusts as founding partners. Sal Khan spoke about it in the morning, if you remember. Khan Academy India offers free K-12 content and tools in multiple languages, including English, Hindi, Kannada, and Gujarati, and works with public and private schools across India. Over to you, Sandeep, for what's going to be an absolutely wonderful session.
Thanks, Ali. Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. We welcome you to this panel. We at Khan Academy recently did a survey of teachers and parents on our platform on how they are responding to COVID-19 closures. I wanted to open this session by sharing the top findings with you all. Number one, 2/3 of teachers describe themselves as thriving instead of struggling, which is something even anecdotally we are hearing some great stories of teachers and how they are responding to this crisis. Number two, however, only 4% said that they had a clear plan for the next academic year. And number three, when it comes to parents, their biggest fear is, in addition to health and safety of their kids, that their kids will get left behind because of interrupted learning. At the same time, it seems a complete given now that things will not return to normal completely, and that we will need to have plans for students to learn both at school and at home. Nandan Nilekani gave this amazing talk this morning about the resilient school and talked a little bit about it. So over the next 50 minutes, we will talk to our panelists, who I will introduce very shortly, on how to build a playbook to enable learning anytime and anywhere. Before we begin, I must say, we don't have all the answers. None of us have the answers. But through this discussion, we hope to surface some new teaching and learning methods that have been tried, strategies to bring on board our teachers and parents, and most importantly, ways to excite our students to embrace these. And while we have this discussion, please keep adding your questions in the chat box, suggestions, comments, etc., and we will take as many of them at the end. So without further ado, I am super excited to introduce our panelists today, and I request them to turn on their video and audio as I call them out. First of all, we have Mrs. Avnita Beer. Hello, ma'am.
Hello.
Mrs. Beer is Director Principal of RN Podar School in Mumbai. She has worked in the field of education for over 3 decades. A recipient of the prestigious National Award for Teachers, conferred by the Honorable President of India. She has also been honored by the President of Singapore for her contribution to the education sector. Mrs. Beer has been driving change at RN Podar School, and I'm fortunate to know some of the initiatives there. And the school has been selected as an Ashoka Changemaker School. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Mr. Vijay Shukla. Hi, Vijay.
Hi, Sandeep. Namaskar, everyone.
Vijay is the managing partner of EduVisors. EduVisors operates a chain of schools called Indus World Schools. Vijay holds an MBA from XLRI Jamshedpur and BTech from IIT BHU Varanasi. Welcome, Vijay.
Thank you.
And last but not the least, we have Mr. Roshan Gandhi. He's joining us from UK right now. Hi, Roshan.
Hi, Sandeep. Hi, everyone.
Hi. Roshan, as Director of Strategy, leads innovation and transformation across City Montessori Schools, which is the world's largest city school with 57,000 students. A graduate from the University of Oxford with an MBA in Educational Leadership from University College London, he has also worked in and continues to consult for various education technology companies. I welcome all of you.
Thank you.
All right, so with the introductions done, let's dive in. Maybe, ma'am, if I can start with you. please others, please chime in. The first thing that I wanted to put in front of this panel was that if you were to go back a few years and look at the investments that you've been making in your own school, both hard and soft. And by hard, I mean devices, labs, and things like that. And by soft could be training programs, communication strategies, etc. What are some of those investments that you've been making that is helping you to be a little bit more prepared in the current times?
Thank you, Sandeep. Let me just start by saying that, in my 3 decades of, experience with education, I've had 2 major missions in my life. One was that, teaching as a profession should feel valued and be, the teachers should feel pride at the work that they're doing. The second was about technology, and the more I experienced and tried technology, I felt that a technology-enabled classroom definitely, makes education more efficient and effective, and does not dehumanize, as most people generally worry about. So I'm very happy to say that in the last couple of months, I feel very heartened to see that both these missions are kind of getting achieved. One, that when I look at the teachers, and they've been at the forefront of change right now, and the way they have adapted, and the pride that they're feeling, and the value that they're attaching to the work that they're doing. To some extent, it's raising, the value that the society is now attaching to teaching as a profession. So that mission, which seemed like a very, very improbable one when I started, because, even I started as a teacher only out of, accident. So I just feel that is a great high for me. It's an aha for me. The second is about technology, which I've always been an enthusiast of, not for the frill value, but for the fact that it has made my productivity much more. It has made me a better and a more effective and a more efficient educator. Having said that, let me go back on my journey, and this is a journey of over 1.5 decades. Okay, our management has always been very, technology driven. Okay, so back in 2005 and 2006, we were the first group of schools which invested in interactive boards. And I remember at that time, I myself was, in denial. And I said, we don't need it. We're doing a great job. The teachers are fine. Why do we need to have these interactive boards where you can drag and drop and children can interact with their lessons? But once we started it, I realized the difference it made to, the way we were interacting, the way we were transacting education in our classrooms. So over the years, in terms of hardware, I think it's not a necessity, but I think it just kind of changes your outlook. It's almost like an attitude change that happens when you start to experiment, when you start to use devices. So it went on to iPads, to Chromebooks, to visualizers, and our management. I mean, there are these conferences and exhibitions which happen internationally. So keeping updated on what is available, what's the latest that can be brought into education. And again, like I said, not for frill value. It was more for how do I make my transactions more interactive and more engaging. So that was in terms of hardware. But in terms, and of course, when we brought in technology, we had to invest in teacher training. I remember the days when teachers had to buy a laptop and they were given at subsidized cost, and children were helping the students the teachers to learn how to use the mouse and all of that. So I felt the bond between the teacher and the taught was becoming stronger with the use of technology, because this is one scenario where the teacher was the student and the student became, the teacher. So the role reversal kind of, actually I felt that, that whole myth about technology dehumanizing or making education, inhuman, just got dispelled. So teacher training happened, and then came 2010 when the CBSE board introduced something called CCE and examination reforms, where we had to now, assess and evaluate children on across the board on many parameters, and not just one teacher but a group of teachers evaluating one student. So I realized that the work of teachers would grow many-fold times, and that's when I said, let me look at technology as a solution. And I found something called Google Docs. At that time it was called Google Docs, and we started to use these as collaborative and communication tools. Okay, we did not invest in any ERP or LMS solution. This was free. We found that it was very magical, and a whole new world of the web opened up for us. And that's when I discovered your your company where you work, Khan Academy. And I happened to listen to Sahil Khan, and I listened to his concept of mastery of learning, and also the flipped classroom, and also giving. I felt that this would give ownership of learning and the accountability of learning to the students. So I started to we did a pilot with Khan Academy back in 2012. Cut to today, we're doing a full-fledged program with Khan Academy. We've brought in BYOD, worked on it successfully. So it's been a journey, a beautiful journey. I remember when I started out, there was a lot of skepticism. And today I just feel like I feel vindicated. I feel like, okay, so what I said at that time, so I've been listening to all the talks of all the speakers and amazing Mr. Deepak Parekh, Sahil Khan. Before that, we had Mr. Nandan Nilekani, even Prithviraj. So I just felt like everything that they were saying resonated so strongly. And so today everybody's speaking the same language. And that for me is a great big high.
No, that's fantastic. And it seems like it was a very organic journey for you,
Yes.
starting in 2005 and then going from there. I'd love, Vijay, if you were to chime in.
Yeah, thanks, Sandeep. Thanks, ma'am. It's great to be here. Thanks to Ashoka University to organize this wonderful conference. I am reminded of a time which was 12 years ago, when along with a friend and partner Bharat, we set out this journey of Eduvisors. And our fundamental, both of us come from IIT, IIM, these kind of background, corporate jobs, etc. And we thought that let us make a difference in the Indian education system, because it really pained us that India produces so many wonderful managers, so many entrepreneurs, but when we generally talk about the school system, there are very few schools that we can turn around and say that we are proud of these schools in India. I mean, there are of course very many good schools, but if we look at large number of schools in India, they produce poor quality, they deliver poor quality education. So that was the journey that we started 12 years ago, and last 12 years have been very times we have been wanting to make a big difference, but there and it's not that people do not have intentions. Everybody loves or wants to have good schools, good education to be provided, because that's not just our moral responsibility, but also as society, we must provide good quality education, not just to select few students in big cities, but everywhere across the country. But it has not been happening, and we have been secretly hoping that some big disruption should come, and here it comes in 2020. Cut to 2020, COVID has done a few fantastic things for the school education. It has basically changed the landscape. 4 things that I would like to highlight. The classroom walls are demolished. I mean, whether we like it or not, some people are still saying that there will be a time one day when we will go back to our usual traditional mode. And I'm thinking, oh my God, let's not go back, because the usual traditional mode was not transformational in nature fundamentally. So 4 things that have come up due to this COVID crisis. So one fundamental thing, the power structure has changed. See, for centuries, several hundred years, what was happening was, there was a very, very strong power play in the regular classroom. If I had to come inside the class, I would say, ma'am, may I come in? If I had to go out, I would say, ma'am, may I go out? If I were to do anything, it was the power play between the teacher and the student in a traditional structure was enormously skewed towards the teacher. And if I'm not interested, I would look out of the window, and the teacher would say, look at the blackboard or whiteboard or whatever the board is. So that with this remote learning, the onus has now become shifted from the student to the teacher, saying that you have to use influence and not power. You have to use inspiration and not instruction, saying that I will teach you in a way that it is very, very engaging and very, very interesting. Otherwise, I lose the student. It's that simple as that. So this new power structure is one. Second, and the other big shift, tectonic shift, is transparency in the classroom transactions. We've been working very hard in classroom observation, trying to teach, trying to learn from the best practices, and trying to tell teachers that what to do, what not to do. But it is humanly impossible. Let's say if a school has 100 classrooms, the principal or whoever the person is, it is impossible to observe all the classes all the time, and also
Sorry, I think we're losing you, Vijay. Avnita, can you hear Vijay?
That's
Okay. Sorry, we lost you for just 2 seconds,
okay.
Vijay.
Oh, okay. So I was saying that higher transparency is the other aspect, and the
Hi, sorry, Vijay. I think we're having there seems to be some connectivity challenge. Do you want to turn off your video? Hello. Yeah. Maybe while Vijay comes back, Roshan, do you want to take that and talk a little bit about your journey with City Montessori schools and how's it been?
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much, Sandeep, and thank you very much to Ashoka University for organizing this fantastic event. It's been fascinating hearing the insights from Avnita ma'am and Vijay sir, because in some ways there are a lot of parallels. And then in other ways, of course, every school's journey is unique. And the challenge for us has been managing scale, because we've got 57,000 students. And I think if we've had any success now at this time in rapidly adapting to online teaching, it's because we're really standing on the shoulders of giants. For us, technology has been a journey over quite some time now. So the very first investment in educational technology in CMS was about 8 years ago, which was a hard investment. That was in interactive whiteboards being placed in all the classrooms. But we quickly realized that they're no use unless there's a lot of training. So we realized that really the most important thing would be soft investment in training teachers to have the skills to use the educational tools available to them. And training has been a process that has evolved and developed over the last 8 years. What we have now is a very structured training program that all teachers undertake. We have a very systematic process of level 1 training, level 2 training, level 3 training even now, which kind of takes teachers through different levels of technical skills. And we have examinations in those levels as well for teachers. They're not high stakes examinations. It's not meant to be instilling any fear in the teachers, but rather a kind of a little motivational exercise to get them certified in level 2 or level 3 or whatever it is. And that has really enabled them to carry forward technological usage very successfully. And apart from that, that's required a lot of investment in our training infrastructure at scale. So across all these schools, we've built various computer labs, which are actually primarily dedicated to IT training purposes. So they're used less by the kids and more by teachers during training periods and during free periods of teachers. We have an IT training team, which is coordinated by the core team at the head office, and then also has representatives in each of our school campuses. And a big campus would have up to 3 full-time IT trainers who are there to support not just IT admin of the school, but specifically training in IT and the use of educational technology. So that's really been, the major investment that has happened has been on that side. And that's really paid dividends now at this time, partly because it meant that all the teachers were, already quite up to scratch in a lot of technological skills. And also because that IT training team has been on hand to keep handholding teachers as they transition into online teaching. And they've been very successful at that.
Got it. Thank you. Vijay, you back? Can you hear
Yeah,
us?
I'm sorry about that. There was some internet glitch.
No problems at all. In fact, I think I would just move on to the next question here, and both what Ma'am Avnita you said and Roshan what you were talking about, and I think Vijay you were alluding to something similar as well, a 12-year journey. So
Right.
The question here is that all of you had the time and foresight to think about it for a long period of time. But the situation right now is that many of us are probably just starting out on that journey. And so, and anyone of you can start taking this question, and then we can go around. But how does who's very early in this journey can accelerate this process, or is it going to be a very long process before schools and majority of schools can come to this level where you folks are?
Right?
Please, ma'am.
Yes. Sure.
Yeah. So I think what is very important, and what Mr. Deepak Parekh mentioned, was about building a culture of fearlessness and experimentation in a non-threatening environment, where teachers are ready to experiment and try new things. Because you see, why are teachers complacent, and why do they not step out of their comfort zone? Because they fear of failure. There's fear of failure. So I think building that culture of fearlessness is extremely important. So mentally, I think we, as a school, we were prepared for this pandemic. I mean, in the sense that we knew what to do, because we built this culture where teachers are not scared of a new thing. So we've been, and this is something that it just struck me the other day, that we, as teachers, keep talking about change being the only constant, and change is unprecedented and uncertain. And this is something that we talk to children about, and we talk about 21st century skills. And we're supposed to impart those to our children. But this is the first time we're actually living that uncertain change. We're living that unpredictability. We don't know what are the answers, where we're heading, when is it all going to end. So for the first time, the wolf has actually come. So and that's something that we need to really get out of. I mean, that feeling that if something goes wrong, what will happen? We've built over the years, we've built institutions. We've built this credibility with teachers and parents. I think that is what we need to now dip into and say, okay, so even we don't have the answers, but let's all be together in this journey of trying out a problem solving. So for me, it has to be by getting your hands dirty. It cannot happen in ivory towers. Technology cannot be learned sitting in an ivory tower. There cannot be no silos. So I feel like principals, first of all, need to walk the talk. They need to learn it, because I often find that principals say, my mail is printed and kept on my table. Now that cannot happen, because if you're expecting the teachers to learn those tools, I think we ourselves as principals, we need to walk that talk. And nothing happens. I mean, there are solutions. We do, everything has, every problem, there is a solution. So I think that mental framework, if we can change, if we can open our minds to experimentation and handhold teachers, okay? And because unless they do it themselves, nobody can teach you how to use a tool, right? So I mean, what we've done in the last few months, I mean, the last month or so, I have spoken to principals and teachers across different cities, and we've said, okay, come into our classes. And that's the big advantage that we're seeing now, right now. Everybody is on the same boat, so everybody's struggling. So when we're organizing a class, I just send the link to them, and they've entered, they've seen and witnessed how a class is happening. So boundaries have just completely disappeared, and if we can get that into our heads, I think that will be a big kickstart for all of us.
Roshan or Vijay, any words of advice on where should people starting out this journey, what should they focus on?
Yeah.
I would just add to what Avnita ma'am said. I think it was Winston Churchill who said, "Never waste a good crisis." So what we have now is a crisis from which we can draw certain silver linings, one of which is this major acceptance of the importance and value and power of technology, and of the importance and value of being able to adapt to new situations rapidly. So whereas previously school leaders may have been struggling with teachers who, these are experienced teachers, they have established classroom practices that work for them. So when some school leader comes in and says, "Oh, you have to come and learn this technology," understandably, sometimes teachers are not going to jump to embrace that. But now I think we've moved forward very rapidly to an understanding of the importance of that. And so when school leaders are setting out on their journey of change management, and the first step, of course, is to build that buy-in, to build that acceptance from teachers, I think this crisis may make that easier than it might have been before. And therefore, that should not be a wasted opportunity, that should be capitalized upon. And then I would also just advise that provided that training is very structured in nature, I think you can train people pretty rapidly, even from zero knowledge. We had teachers who had never held a mouse in their life. We had teachers who at the very beginning in their level 1 IT training assessment were sort of doing a puja on the computer to try to boost their chances and all of that sort of thing. We've come from there to where we are now, where all of the teachers are using things. And I think it was the structuring of training in a very systematic manner, which facilitated that, and also making sure that training is always relevant. So it's one thing to teach, Microsoft Word and say this is what this button does and that button does, and this is how you use Microsoft Word. It's another thing if while doing so you say, and this is how it will help you in doing such and such a thing in your classroom. This is how it will make this aspect of your life easier as a teacher. That really boosts the buy-in and makes teachers learn very, very quickly.
Yeah, just to add to what Roshan said, Sandeep, I think fundamentally, we need to really recognize that school, as we were discussing the other day, school is fundamentally not really a destination. School is a service. So if we recognize this shift in mindset that it's not about building, it is not about infrastructure, it is about service, and if we try to examine the service very carefully, whether to student or to parent or to society at large, there are 4 fundamentally different aspects to this service. There is a cognitive aspect of service, there's a social development aspect, there is emotional development aspect, and there's a physical development aspect. We talk about these virtual classrooms or online learning, etc. The default mindset for most schools is cognitive development. Meaning that just do whatever is happening in the classroom. That's a task to be done, but that's easy to do. There are plenty of learning management solutions. There are, video conferencing platforms like Google Meet, Microsoft Teams, Zoom, etc. There are very many storage and retrieval systems. And the good news is many of these companies like Khan Academy are coming forward with free-to-use products or services. So that's the easy part to fix. The bigger challenge is about the social development, the emotional development, and the physical development of the child, which has to go hand in hand together. So I think in coming months or years, we really need to consider the possibility of trying to arrive at newer approaches, innovative ways on development of all these 3 things. And one point which I wanted to cover earlier was this entire role of parent. See, earlier, many parents, unfortunately, they think that if they send the child to the school, their job is done, and that's if you look at any success story, whether it's a child or a family is where parents and family members are involved in child's education, the child outperforms by huge margin. Fortunately, this COVID-19 scenario has given us the opportunity to involve parent, whether they like it or not, whether they appreciate, whether they understand it very well or not, to involve parent in the personalized learning journey of the child. Now that, to my mind, should be something which we should try and incorporate in school's agenda, saying that, we will try henceforth, get parent fully involved in child's personalized learning journey.
Yeah. No, Vijay, thank you so much for bringing out that third angle. I think Roshan talked about the training structure and how you can get teachers to be trained much faster. Miss Beer talked about this whole change management thing that has to be brought in, and then there's a parent angle. And when we're talking about enabling learning anytime, anywhere, that's kind of like critical piece. I actually wanted to go to Mrs. Beer again. And because the thing that's I'm recalling is this, you tried this bring your own device policy. And I think that did require a little bit of chats and, understanding with parents. So I'm just wondering if you want to talk a little bit about this parent angle more.
Sure. So we've been trying out a lot of technology tools, especially when we introduced the Google suite of apps, and this was long back in 2010. So it's almost a decade of working with parents using technology. So every student is using the Google Classroom. So parents are quite familiar now with the fact that we use technology for communication and collaboration. Having said that, our parents are still very traditional and conservative in terms of academic outcome of their children's learning. So over the years, we needed to build that trust and that credibility that whatever experiments we try out, if we're bringing technology, we're bringing in life skills, whatever new things that we bring into the school, the academic performance and the academic rigor of the program is non-negotiable. So once parents had that confidence that the school will take care of, at the end of grade 12, will my child get into JE or some good engineering college? I mean, that's the aspiration of most parents, right? So, we kind of built that in place. We put it in place. And then we said, okay, so parents, when we now go to them with a new idea, bring your own device, they trust us. So there is a trust that has got built. And so when we integrated Khan Academy in the school. So we earlier did it as a pilot, which was at home, but now since it came into the school and they had to use their devices, of course there were some parents who could not send a device, some children couldn't bring a device. So we have a few sets in the school for those kids, but just enough for a few. But otherwise, the parents are quite comfortable. Children have learned to use it responsibly. We've not had any issue of misuse. And also it gives us actually an opportunity to educate kids about safety. So I just feel that we can't run away from reality. We need to face it, embrace it, and use the opportunity of using it to educate and train our kids and prepare them for the world.
No, thank you very much, Roshan. Any comments on from you on that one?
Yeah, in fact, Avnita ma'am very kindly, she and her team gave a lot of time to very kindly host us on a visit to her school to witness this Bring Your Own Device program. And actually, perhaps that puts me in a unique position of being an outsider who is trying to look for questions on how that works. What we were able to gather some of the key points, because we and our principals were a little skeptical about it, but then we saw it working. So some of the key points, I think, were one, first of all, the school has developed a very, very positive culture about technology and the responsible use of technology. I think they've spent time educating parents and children about how to use technology responsibly, what is a good way of using technology, what is a bad way of using technology, to assuage the fears of parents that they may have had. Secondly, they do account for children who may have problems in bringing devices. Maybe their device isn't working, or their parent needs it, or they don't have one available. So the school has a reserve set of devices in-house, I understand, and so it will distribute those to the few kids who may not have been able to bring their device. So that ensures the equality, so that no kid is left out in case they're unable to bring their device. And then, thanks to the culture that they've developed with the parents, there aren't any problems. But even then, I believe the school has an undertaking with the parents to sort of make sure that the responsible usage of the devices is done. So I'm trying to remember from a visit several months ago, although I have notes written somewhere. These are the key takeaways that I had, and that was basically something that we were going to experiment with in CMS from this session, from April, in a couple of our branches, thanks to that visit, thanks to the confidence that we got. So we do believe in the potential, and we were going to pilot it. For obvious reasons, that pilot has been put on hold until we actually have a bring your own device school. But we've gained more confidence in this time, I suppose, because it seems that a lot of parents at home, clearly they do have devices available. We had this fear that maybe they don't have devices available. Clearly they do, because all of our kids have been logging on to online classes. So that has given us even more confidence to try this out when we get back.
Yeah. I think if you can make, there were some questions about access and that not everyone may have it. But then if there is a combination of bring your own device plus a smaller, maybe a school lab, that may be one way to address that. I wanted to open go to some of the questions. We have a few questions from the audience, but there was one thing that Vijay had talked about, and I want to get very quick thoughts from all of you. He talked about the classroom walls are getting demolished, the power structure is changing, and there's a very high level of transparency in classrooms, in the sense that as these Zoom sessions are happening, I have young kids. I know when their classes are happening, I mean I can see what's going on in the class. How are you folks even thinking about that, and what is the what are the things that you would address and address for whom? I mean, is it for teachers that you have to address? Is it parent expectation management? Or would love to hear some thoughts on that.
Well, maybe if I can just share the my view on the topic. See, the traditional approach said that one teacher would teach at a time, maybe 20, 25, 30, 35 as the case may be, so sometimes even 40 students in a classroom. Now we all know that no two teachers are identical. There are good teachers, there are bad teachers, there are great teachers, there are outstanding teachers. What this transparency is likely to bring is that teachers who are very, very good, and it could be a topic wise, subject wise, chapter wise, whatever concept one may follow. If let's say if you are an outstanding teacher of trigonometry, what is stopping 10,000 students to learn trigonometry? There's nothing. It has opened up. The walls are demolished. So in a way, teachers will become like artists. Worry about anything else. You just keep doing. You maybe good in just one topic, but you will find your students from all across the country, or maybe perhaps the globe. And if you are not good at your job, there'll be fewer takers. Because this artificial restriction of mapping X number, maybe 20, 30, 40 students to a teacher, that itself is being challenged. So that I see as good news, because students, so I don't have to learn geography from one teacher. I can learn geography from 5 teachers, in times. So that, in my view, is going to be a very, very significant shift. Yeah.
Thanks, Vijay.
So I think, Sandeep, what I've seen is that in the last 2 months, this has been a fantastic joint partnership and collaboration between home and school, parents and teachers, coming together, working together towards the interest of their children. So, of course, lessons have gone home and all of that, but we've also involved the parents. So, for example, one of the things that we realized was that there's going to be angst at some point of time in the children, in the parents, in the teachers. So, we've collaborated together. We've got parents into the classroom in a life skills session where we're discussing relationships and between parents and children, because we also realize that children are now in close proximity with their parents, and sometimes it can be a cause of concern and angst for them. So we decided to use this opportunity of access to parents today to bring them into the classroom and interact with them and discuss openly problems that children and parents might face at home. So that's one of the things. So I think during this period we've actually utilized more resources than ever before. I've been able to interact with more parents because it's so much easier now for me. I mean, especially in terms of logistics. We've also been able to get in our alumni across the globe to come and talk to our current kids, which is something that I've always aspired to during their vacations when they come to Mumbai, and we can take them to meet the kids and interact with them. But this was such a great opportunity because across the world now it's so easy to access the alumni and get them to interact and share their journeys with the students. So I mean, it's about the sky is not a limit. I mean, it's there's so much that there are increased immense possibilities today. So I think that's what I have seen happening.
Yeah, I'm going to just actually add, ask one of the questions that has come up from the audience. This is related to parents, and the question is that in nuclear families where both the parents have professional jobs, are there any tips on how they can effectively manage their children's online classes at home?
Yeah, maybe I'll take this one. So it's not good news really, because as also mentioned by one of the professors from Harvard yesterday, that involvement of parents in education needs commitment, needs resources, needs time. And traditionally, I mean, because schools typically, especially if they are extended day schools, would do two jobs at the same time. One, they would say that, okay, I'll take care of education of your child, and I'll also take care of your need to do parenting, after maybe 2 p.m. or 3 p.m. Now, with this type of scenario, it's a tough call, but it has to be taken that, one of the two, I mean, large number of people in the US are already struggling with this, and also developed economies, that, if you're serious about education of your child, you have to earmark, you have to take time out, you have to compromise, even if it means working half day. And there are corporations and companies which are now considerate. You take half day, you alternate, maybe one day father goes, the other day mother goes, but there is no shortcut to it. You have to be committed at least till the time your child is graduates from so in short, you have to take time out for kids education. Yeah.
But can I push this thinking a little bit? Is there also
Yes.
something that schools can do in terms of providing maybe clearer and simpler instructions to parents? Because it's like, you bring them into this whole classroom, which is suddenly opened up. How much is this communication and, how much is that involved, and how much room there is to really make it easy for them to to come and help as well?
I think what we've done
Yeah,
is...
in fact, that was my... yes, ma'am. Sorry.
No, you can...
Oh, just very quickly, that was my other point, ma'am and Sandeep, that, the school will have to allocate significant resources on education of parents. See, one of the fundamental things that, we've realized that, parents...
Sorry, we're having, Vijay, some trouble in hearing you.
Oh. Is it
You
better now?
You cut out for 5 seconds. Yeah, please. Yeah.
Okay. So in summary, significant resources need to be allocated for parent education from school standpoint as compared to students' education. So,
No,
and
fair point.
Involvement does not just mean physical time. Involvement that, you are part of the learning journey of the child. Yeah.
Ma'am, you were saying something?
I was
Go ahead,
just
ma'am.
saying that, we've used the asynchronous method more with the younger kids, especially where, where children need help from parents. We've used the Google Classroom a lot. So, and it's in a very structured form that, the teachers are, giving instructions or sharing a video or a text or something, which the children are just supposed to read, follow, and, follow the instructions. So very detailed instructions given to the kids on the Google Classroom. And it's not as if it's time bound. It's like over a week, whatever you can do with your child, whatever resources you have at home, work together. It's more of a DIY, simple experiments, simple life skills sessions. We've done more of that. In fact, we've spent a lot of time doing reflective kind of lessons with our kids, because we also realize that this is a time where we want to change the way we think, the way we're looking at our environment. So this is an opportunity to change, the curriculum, also focus of our curriculum more towards, the real world and the problems that we're facing in the real world. And so they become better real world problem solvers. So I think, doing that has not put too much of pressure on the parents. And having said that, whatever synchronous learning, that video classes that we do are recorded, and whenever the parent a child misses a class and the parent requests for it, we do share that. So I mean, a lot of our time has gone in very creative lessons rather than just the rote, the direct instruction kind of lessons.
Yeah. I think we are. We have probably another 10 minutes or so. I wanted to ask you folks, each one of you, how prepared are you feeling for this coming academic year? Maybe on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being we're absolutely ready, and 1 being we don't know what's going to go on. And 2, if you could also just quickly add like 2 or 3 things that you are currently focused on, that you are trying to get done in the next couple of months for the next academic year.
Yeah. So if I were to put a number from 1 to 10, I think I would put a 5, because that's the halfway number, because there are a lot of things which we've gained new certainty about, and a lot of things which we've gained new uncertainty about. Quite just apart from the fact that there's basic legal uncertainty about what schools will be allowed to run and in what manner. At least in UP, we still haven't got a clear instruction. There's been a lot of talk and speculation. So maybe 50% of the class will be allowed to come and sit, maybe 30%. We don't know. And so we're trying.
Sorry, Roshan, that's coming in. I'm told that we only have 4 minutes left. So your score is 5. What are you working on specifically, top things that you're working on for the next academic year?
So I think because now we have this confidence that the basics of technology usage are very secure, now is the time to work on building on those basics and taking technology usage up to the next level. So now that we have all that basic acceptance in place, I think the next level includes 2 things primarily, which I hope to focus on. One is the greater use of data and the power of data in from technology in the classroom. I think the kind of data that is generated by various different e-learning platforms, the kind of continuous generation of data allows teachers to potentially personalize strategies for different students slightly more. Especially, obviously, it's impractical to completely personalize in a classroom, but it certainly helps to personalize with asynchronous learning and the kind of out-of-class assignments that teachers give to different students to really help individual students. So that power of data is one thing. And the other thing is, again, building on the point of asynchronous learning. I think there's a growing realization of the power of that and the effectiveness of that in improving students' learning. And so I think now is the time to start experimenting with more flipped learning, with more of children investing in their own learning outside of the classroom and then coming back into the classroom for further consolidation of things. I think now we're able to really build on that thanks to the new insights which have come out of this crisis.
Awesome. Yeah. Ma'am?
I second Roshan on all the points. Data-driven, Definitely. I mean, I'm really excited about analytics and how to improve learning for our children, because now that we're using technology and we have so much data, I'm sure it can be put to good use. Definitely, a more self-directed learning. I mean, this is something that I've always been very keen on. Accountability and ownership of learning has to go on to the students. I mean, it's like they've always felt that the school will take care of our performance, or parents will take care, but they've never taken that ownership themselves. So this is a time for them to, take that. On a scale of, I mean, I come from a city of Mumbai, which is so full of constraints that I actually become more creative and a better problem solver when I face a constraint. So of course I don't know what is going to be the future. It could be we're already working in 2 shifts. Our school already runs in 2 shifts. So how are we going to accommodate the large numbers that we have? But I'm looking at this model of a lecture come tutorial, with larger number of children and as a lecture, but then have small groups for discussions like a tutorial, so that we don't leave out any child, no child left behind, because generally in a large number, So,
ma'am, one minute left, and I want to give Vijay a chance too. So, what's your score?
Yeah, thank you. 5 on 10, Sandeep, and focus on personalized learning journey. Investments in that order: teacher, parent, and technology. And the big aspect is to do zero-based budgeting from financial standpoint.
Awesome. No, great. I mean, so I think that's what the average score is 5. So no one needs to worry. I mean, as we said in the beginning, we don't have all the answers. But good thing is that there are some things that we have experimented in the past and we can figure out. I think concrete things that I took away was focusing on change management with teachers, expectation management and parent education. And then really finding improved training structure so that you can just like get to get your teachers at a much higher level much faster. So thank you all for sharing your views today. It was really delightful to talk to you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sandeep.
Thank you very much.